Well, this week our refrigerator is really taking shape for the dollhouse. This is how far we get on today's video. Stay tuned and see how this all comes together. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to cover this edge so it covers up those corners. And what I've done, I've cut a 1/4 inch wide strip of our cardstock, the same cardstock we covered the outside of the door with. And we're going to use our tacky glue because it has a better hold than the glue stick. I like the glue stick for flat surfaces, but not for something like this. And we're going around the corner that doesn't have the straw. This is where the straw is. We need to leave that open. And go to the bottom of this edge. And I don't want too much glue, but I want enough to make a good bond. Too much glue and it will ooze out all over the place, excuse me, and make a mess. So I'll line up our cardstock. The important edge is the one that goes towards the front of the door. If it hangs over on the inside, that's okay. We can deal with that later. But this is just going to make a nice finished look to the edge of our door. And we're going to finish the inside of the door later. But this will need to dry first. And I forgot to bring my scissors back. So I am going to cut that. Again, cut it just shy of where the hole for the straw is. We're doing this first because this needs to dry. We need this glue dry before we can move on with the door. So make sure everything is down flat. I've already done the other door, so those are going to be set off to the side. Next, we are taking our pattern sheet, and I've got glue all over me. This part of our pattern sheet is going to be cut out of clear plastic using one of these. Oh, I know, I sacrificed myself and bought donuts just so you guys could see this video. So I'm going to cut a panel out of this, and then I'm going to tape these on and cut all the shelves out of the plastic, making sure I leave these on until I glue them into my refrigerator. So let me go get that done, and then I'll be back. Alright, so I've got my shelves cut out. Now you may be sure before you put any glue on anything and before you take these off that you test fit your shelves. I found that on this side I did need to trim mine just a little bit, probably not quite 1/8 of an inch. It will depend on exactly where your center divider went. If you need to trim them, it's easy to trim. I'd rather have you trim them than make the pattern too small in case you got your center divider over further. So I've got my glue, I've got my toothpick, and I've also got some rubbing alcohol and some cotton, just in case I have trouble getting the sticky off. And it looks like it's going to come off just fine, but I have this here just in case. So make sure this is clean. And I'm only peeling one shelf at a time. And I like to start at the bottom. I'm putting glue, hopefully you can see this, on these cross pieces. And it is really pouring, and there was a little thunder earlier, so it may get loud in the background here. Oops. And I'll try not to get glue all over myself. So I'm going to do one more shelf on camera, and then I'm going to turn the camera off and go ahead and do this off camera. Again, testing that. I should go just a little right to the front. Try not to drip glue inside of your refrigerator. And then this goes in. So I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm going to put all the shelves in, and when I get them all in, I'll be back really quickly and show you. Like this one, the tape, the sticky didn't come off. So a little bit of alcohol on a cotton ball. And once I get the camera off and I can put this down on the table where I can actually work on it, that will come right off. So I wanted to show you that really quickly. Alright, we're going to do the same procedure we've done before. We're going to take these two pieces that are labeled door 2 liner and door 1 liner. I like to cut off most of the paper from around them. We're going to use double stick tape and stick it on to the less shiny side of your poster board. And then cut these two out right on the lines. When I get that done, I'll be right back. Alright, now I would recommend that you try this out, make sure it's going to fit. So if you need to trim anything off, mine fits just right. Peel off my paper and apply glue stick. And I've got just a piece of scratch paper down here to protect my work surface, because I don't want glue stick all over everything. And remember, this is the not as shiny side. We're using the shiny side out for our inside of our refrigerator. Snug this over as far as you can into your refrigerator door, right up against that paper that you put around the edge. And now this needs to dry. I'm going to do the same thing on this door using the wider piece, and when the glue is dry, I'll be back and we can go to the next step. Alright, now I want to make this top edge just a little bit more sturdy than the foam core is. So I've painted 2 skinny sticks with white paint, the same white paint we used before. I'm going to cut one piece that's exactly the width of my refrigerator. And there's where I put that. And the painted edge that really matters, the only one that matters, is the edge that's going to go towards the refrigerator. And this will blend in with our liner. It's not going to show, or barely. You'd have to really look for it. That's why I put it on the top. And also I found the bottom didn't need this. The bottom was strong enough that the foam core pieces all played nicely. So now that needs to dry. And when that dries, I'll come back, we'll do these 2 edges, and then we can go start working on putting the doors on. Alright, so this glue is set enough that we can work around it. So we are going to another skinny stick. I'm going to mark there, and I'll mark one for over here. And I do like to mark them separate in case anything is off at all. And then, since we'll need the spacer, I've got just a little bit more of this stick that we used for here. And this one's actually going to tuck behind, because mine sticks up. If yours doesn't stick up, actually I'm going to cut it and then I'm going to sand it. There. So I'm going to dig out an emery board and make sure that's level. Now I'm going to glue these 3 pieces onto the top. When they're glued on and the glue's dry, I'll be back. Alright, so we are going to cover the outside of the refrigerator, and then we are going to put the doors on. This is our last step. So first we're going to take off the pattern pieces. If you can get the tape off, that's ideal. Let's get that one off for now. We're going to glue one side at a time, and for the first bit we're going to glue to this foam core. For that I'm using tacky glue because I really want this to hold on this area. And this is 5 inches this way by 8.5, the length of the sheet of cardstock. And this is that same white cardstock we've been using. And I want not enough glue that it buckles the paper, but enough that it makes a good bead. And I think I'm going to bring more, a bit of a bead. We want this really anchored. Because it's really important that we pull this paper really tight so it looks really nice. Now, take your paper and line it up with the edge. And this is going to have to dry because, like I said, we're going to pull against this. We want to make some really sharp corners all the way around. So I'm going to let this glue dry for a little bit, and after it's gotten some time to dry, I'll come back and we'll fold it around and go around the next side. Alright, so this bit of glue has had time to set up. So now what I'm going to do two things. First, I'm going to fold my paper around so that I can get a nice crease here. Now, this side we can do with glue stick because this side is not going to get pulled against as much. You can brush on tacky glue if you want to, but it's not a necessity on this. It's okay that that's not quite going to the top because we are going to put a band around our top when we put our top on. So I think we can probably peel this part off. Probably should have went around and peeled these off first, but I didn't think of it. I'm going to peel this one off too. So let's go ahead and glue this all the way around. Yeah, really crease that, really pull it tight. And it's okay that the tape stayed, doesn't really matter. Now my paper is going crooked, so I need to straighten it. What's happening here? There we go. Put as tight as you can. And we're going to let that glue dry before we trim this back and glue it to the front. Alright, now that that glue stick has had time to dry, and you'll find that it will peel away pretty easily because glue stick doesn't hold very well. Now I am going to use this skinny stick to very carefully cut this paper. I'm hoping to give myself a little extra from what I need. Knowing that a skinny stick is about the same thickness as my foam core. Yeah, I've got a little extra there, which is what I wanted. And once again, because it's the end, we're going to use liquid glue because I really want this to stay put. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to, let's come up with a way to kind of hold this down, put some more weight on it. There. By putting a skinny stick there and then two across, I'm weighting that. I can put something on there to weight it down. That will hold it so I don't have to stand here and hold it until it dries. Now that glue will need to dry, and when that's dry, we'll come back and we'll go to the next step. All right, the exciting part, we're going to take these off. Now, I'm very carefully, my glue is not completely dry, but pretty much. I'm going to just run my knife up so I can make a nice, neat cut. Oh, too deep. Luckily, most of this will be covered by the door. If the glue was drier, it would work better. There we go. All right, now, the next step in getting our door on is to cover this bottom. So, let's peel off our cover. Peel off our pattern piece. Now we have this piece that we cut out last week called bottom cover. I'm going to go ahead and peel that off. And we can cover this later. Alright, so that piece needs to go right there. So I am going to, this is what's going to keep our hinge from going through the bottom. Put some glue. And find a toothpick that's not glued down. And spread this glue out all the way to the edges. Because you want a good bonding here. You really want this to stick on. Oops. Put that on. And now we're going to set something heavy-ish, like a glue bottle, on top of this, because I want this to stay down. So I'm going to let this glue dry, and when this is dry, I'll be back and we can work on the doors. Alright, it's time to put the door on, and we're going to start by using this wire. This wire, it's really cheap. This is 12 gauge wire, aluminum floral wire, and I got this at Dollar Tree. I like this for a couple of reasons. 12 gauge is perfect to go through our straws, and this stuff is really, really soft. It's really easy to bend. So I'm going to cut a couple pieces that are way long because I want to cut them to length once I get my doors on. And this stuff is inexpensive, so I don't mind wasting it. But it's the perfect size to go down. Where's my other door? There's my other door. It's been a long day. It's actually getting late. Alright, now, this is in that little hole. And this one goes in that little hole. Because the wire is soft, we can kind of manipulate. Now, I know I had everything, there it is, earlier. So I've got that all ready. Now I need my glue. We're not going to cut the wire to size until this is glued on and has time to set. Now, this is where you kind of need multiple hands, and I managed to do that. And there are our doors. Alright, we're going to leave our doors open though, because we don't want to take a chance on them gluing shut. Now, check that everything, kind of look at the side and make sure your top of your refrigerator is on level. Make sure this is not gapping. Then put something relatively heavy on it. And I'm going to let this sit. It's now, I just finished my dinner. I'm going to let this sit until morning. In the morning, I'll come back and we will finish up the exterior of our refrigerator. Alright, the glue has been drying overnight, so now we can take this off. We're going to just use a pair of side cutters and cut that off as close as you can. Now, we have this top cover. We are going to, we can pull off that. Pull off the labeling on this. I won't need my pattern piece on there anymore. No, tape doesn't want to come off. So, for this, we are going to spread some glue. And I need to get my smaller, there they are. There's the smaller ones. I think I can get closer. That's better. Get this cut off as close as you can to the top of that. And then spread the glue out nice and evenly. This on. And I like to have the printed side in, simply because that way nothing will show through. We are going to cover this with our cardstock. So I'm going to set my bottle of isopropyl alcohol back on top of there, and I'm going to give this an hour or so for the glue to set. And let's see, I want to put these on because that is trying to lift up in the corners. By having this on it, it will give more even pressure. Be sure that it has not shifted and let it sit. Alright, now we're going to cover the top of this. And rather than make another pattern, I didn't have time to draw a pattern for this. I'm just using the top cover pattern that we cut this out with. I laid it on cardstock and I cut approximately 1/4 inch all the way around. It doesn't have to be exact because this is going to, be covered. The edges will be covered when we're done. And then I'm cutting diagonally so that I can make this fold. Now I'm going to go through, and right along the edge of that I'm taking the back of my knife blade and I'm going to score right along the edge of this pattern piece. That will allow that to fold down very nicely over the top. And no, I did not. Alright, get this off. I'm going to pre-fold all these corners. Trying to have this where you guys can see it and I can still see it too. That one's not quite as wide of an edge, so it's a little harder. Now, because we want this to stay put, we're going to use 2 types of glue. I'm going to run just not even a bead of glue around here, just a smear of glue. trying to be very careful I don't stick any gluey fingers down onto the outside of my refrigerator. And that tacky glue can sit there for a second while we put some glue stick on the top. Now, put this down. And fold those edges. And don't worry about the corners right now. We're going to deal with the corners after this gets all dry. If any glue comes out, go ahead and wipe it with your finger. And I'm going to let this glue dry. I'll probably have to come back and press down on this a little more because it's wanting to lift up. And when this is all dry, I'll come back and we'll move on to the next step. Alright, now we're going to finish off this top edge. We're going to start. And my glue is not 100% dry, it's just pretty dry. It's fine. And I'm just kind of cutting that so it makes, so there's no lump left. So, and fold it in. Let's see if I can retrieve that. Alright. Now I have cut another 1/4 inch strip of this same cardstock. And I'm going to start my strip in the middle of the back. Simply because I think it looks better that way. It looks a little more finished. And for this I'm just going to add some glue. Try and make it even with the top. The back is going to show a little more of a crack. This is going to show a little bit, but not much. If you're really picky, you can put another strip in to cover that. I'm not going to. Because we're going to look at our refrigerator from the front for the most part. If yours is going to be displayed where the side shows more, you might want to cover that joint a little better. And it almost meets in the back. That's okay. Now, let's work on the bottom. The bottom we are just going to cover, we'll just cut a piece. It doesn't need to fold up. Well, actually we're going to treat the bottom the same exact way we just did the top. So I'm going to cut this about 1/4 inch bigger. I'm going to make slots in the corner. I'm going to glue it on and I'm going to put a rim on just like I did here. And when that's on and dry, we'll come back and we'll start working on the next step. Alright, so this is the last pattern piece on the page 3 of the pattern sheets, and it's called the base. And we're just cutting this from foam core. And since we are just cutting from foam core, I have used double stick tape to put it on. And by the way, I've gotten several questions about working with foam core. The tips video on, I believe that's the 4th Thursday in October, will be kind of a foam core 101 kind of thing. Just a short video telling you some of the secrets of working with foam core and what some of the differences are between the two kinds that I do buy. Cut this. I think I need to replace my knife blade. Now, we have that cut out. Take our pattern off of it. And I have a piece of black cardstock. And I'm going to put this in and try and allow myself about that much space. I want this to wrap up neatly around this piece. Again, from the corners. And this one, we are going to need to cut these before we go too far. The end pieces. Here's like a tape. Yeah, it is sticky. It still had tape on it. All right. I'm going to just use glue stick for this part because these are going to be covered later. That edge, bend that part over, if there is a part. I want to just cover just that end a little bit. And this is the part that I don't like about working with glue sticks. It doesn't hold very well. Just leave enough on that end to cover the corner on this so the white doesn't show through, because these we are not going to be putting a piece around the edge. And I hear my kitchen timer going off in the other room. Good thing it's just for something I'm soaking in the sink and not for something in the oven. Alright, I forgot it was on. Alright, so I am going to set this on my tile and I'm going to put something heavy on it, and when this is dry and that's dry, we will put this on. Alright, so here's where we are right now. We're going to put the base onto our refrigerator and then we're going to leave it until next week, and we'll finish up the detail work next week. So what I've got this, and I had a little piece that came loose, so I'm going to glue that when I glue this down. This is the bottom. Make sure you know which is the bottom and which is the top. So on the bottom, you're going to glue the foam, the side that shows some foam core, towards the refrigerator. Right like that. If I take that off, I'm going to see it. So I am going to first put a little glue there. Since that corner lifted, I'll just glue it back down. Then I can trim it later. And for this we're using our tacky glue because we want this to really stick. Now, kind of eyeball center it underneath. And that is the base of your refrigerator. I'm going to put that bottle of rubbing alcohol on there again. I'm going to let that sit until it's dry. Alright, here we have page 4 of our pattern sheet. And you'll notice there are dotted lines and there are solid lines. I want you to cut on all the solid lines, and then we're going to score on the dotted lines. And this, by the way, I printed this on a piece of cardstock, the same cardstock I did the outside of the refrigerator with. So let's go ahead and get this cut out. This is so cute when it's done. Remember, don't cut on the solid lines, only cut, or don't cut on the dotted lines, only on the solid lines. And I like to go through and cut all the lines that go one direction, and then I come back and I score the same direction, and then I'll flip the page around. Alright, that's all of those. Now we're going to score. And I'm just using the back of my knife. Use whatever you're comfortable with scoring. This was an interesting pattern to put together. I've never done a pattern like this on the computer, so it was interesting. Right, now the other direction, the crosswise. And the end. Then we'll go back and we'll score this direction. Alright, now we'll see how well I did. Did I get it cut? I might have to do a little bit, yeah. I find it easier to go to the back to see what I have missed. Okay, that one I did not get cut. You could do this out of just regular printer paper, but I think you'll be happier with it if you use cardstock. All right, now we're going to fold on all of those score lines. And I'm actually folding it all up right now. Whoops. Alright, we're going to fold it together first once without glue, and then we'll go back and put the glue on. So put yours in this position, fold this end up, and these flaps up. Then fold this. You want to do it first without glue to make sure you know where everything is going. And it's going to go right like that. And it should look like that when you're done. And this one, you actually probably could get by without gluing if you wanted to. But I'm going to go ahead and pop it open. Actually, I think, yeah, I want to glue these flaps down at least. Come on. Come apart for me. There's my scratch paper. I knew I had scratch paper here. And this one, it looks like maybe needs to be trimmed. If you have pieces that are folding, go ahead and trim those. Those flaps It depends on the paper and how thick your paper is if you'll need to trim those. And you saw this is pretty tight. This probably would hold itself together without glue if you really wanted to. And you'll notice I folded it with all the ends in, the printing in so that it doesn't show. And that, my friends, is the produce drawer for the refrigerator. And as soon as that base is dry, we can try it in there. So I'm just going to let all this glue dry and then I'll be back. Alright, so our glue is dry enough that we can handle this now. And this will be much easier after we add door handles next week, but I don't want this video to get too long. But let's put our produce drawer in, and there, it fits right in. You could put some produce in there. I've got lots of produce videos on back when I was doing the farm stand, but I hope that you are enjoying this project. I really don't want to get this too long. I know the last 2 weeks have been super long videos, so I'm trying to keep this one a little shorter. Be sure and check the blog post. There will be photos there, as well as the link to get the PDF pattern pieces. If you haven't found the Facebook group, I encourage you to find me on Facebook, because that is the quickest and easiest way to get a hold of me. And most weeks I give you a teaser photo so you know what you're going to be making on Sunday. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.